You tapping in real quick for this UFC 310. Fitting to take place this Saturday evening, going down in the T-Mobile Arena. That main event is a bang out between a crafty, OG, UFC, battle-tested veteran and the newcomer. You know what I'm talking about? It very much so just is what it is. And we've been through this, man. We've been through this, and we've been through this. But none of that matters. I'm bored. So we fitting to run through this motherfucker from bottom to top one more again. You know what I'm talking about? I put all my content out, parlay videos, I mean absolutely everything for this card hella early, man. You know what I'm talking about? Which left us with not a lot to talk about this week, man. Now, while I already have posted my Covington versus Buckley fight card picks in a little clip written out for y'all, and you know, I very much so can just dive into touching on all of that, I must leave something for next week. You know what I'm talking about? I must leave something for next week, or we gonna be sitting like this again. You know what I mean? So for what it's worth, you know what I mean? I'm fitting to fire up the rest of this and burn it down with y'all for a few minutes and talk about what we've already talked about. You know what I mean? And I might tap back in a little bit later on. Matter of fact, I'm going to tap back in a little bit later on with a few more parlay options. I did everything for this except for the quick picks. I think I did absolutely everything for this. Got everything out the way. Final thoughts of confident picks, underdogs, parlay videos, absolutely everything except for my quick picks on this card. Ain't that about a bitch? Solid. Wah, wah, wah. Anyway, I will be tapping back in later on with some more parlay options for UFC 310, as some of these money lines have gotten a bit ridiculous. Chases, I said it though. Chases over that minus 1,000 money line. It's like a 1050, 1100 in some places, man. Shoo! Bryce is creeping up there to where Chase was. You know what I'm talking about? Kennedy's already crept up to where Bryce was and is surpassing. These money lines are getting out of control, man. But it is what it is. More times than not, one of those more significant favorites fumbles the bag while I was live for the one card, and we're sitting there watching Shai Ming in there, and Fang, I'm saying live to the individuals that was watching, which one of these which one of the more significant favorites on the card, out of Kong and Fang and Zhang, like which one of the more, and the boy Kavanaugh, which one of the more significant favorites was going to be the one to fumble the bag? Now, Kavanaugh was already out the way at the time, if I'm not mistaken. And then, boom, Fang fumbled the bag. Zhang came through. Boom, Kong fumbled the bag. You know what I mean? More times than not, it be the more significant favorites that fumble the bag, man. That's why I like to find my most confident picks in the more closely lined fights, or sometimes they're underdogs. You know what I'm talking about? Like I jumped all over Chris Weidman for what it's worth. I don't have a whole lot of action on the fight, but when I jumped on Chris, he was at an underdog price. You know what I'm talking about? Just like he was in his last fight when they was lined up to fight. And then the closer it got to the fight, like I said, he ended up being a pick'em. Then he ended up being a slight favorite, minus 120, minus 128, minus 132. You know what I'm talking about? That trend is going to continue this week. As you can see, he left the plus, 116s and the 108s and the plus 100s and made it to the minus 112 pick'ems. And I don't know where he's at right this second, but I'm under the firm belief he's going to be the slight favorite again come fight night. You know what I'm talking about? So I'm glad for the action I do have on that fight. I was able to catch Chris at a plus money number. That's not the case anymore. You know what I'm talking about? But I will tap in to talk about some more parlay options, man, where I stay away from all of those significant favorites. You know what I mean? Unless it's a haymaker or a Hail Mary, all of those significant favorites are out of the fucking question. You know what I'm talking about? Main events, co-main events, heavyweight, MMA, it's all out of the motherfucking question. You know what I'm talking about? and we right around those closely lined fights, man. You know what I mean? It's about being on the right side of Joshua and Cody, on the right side of Max and motherfucking Mike. You know what I'm talking about? On the right side of some of these other closely lined fights, you feel me? And if you find yourself on the right side of one of these more significant dogs that barks and pops the fuck off, you know, salute to you. But for me, you know what I mean? It's about being on the right side of Brian versus Randy, you know, Cody versus Joshua, motherfucking Chris versus Eric, you know what I'm talking about? Vicente versus Themba, Masvar versus Aljo. Like I said, Michael versus Max, Anthony versus Dominic, and I'm not so much worried about that. I'm worried about really getting a lot of action on these prelims and kind of staying the fuck away from the main event. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have action on it, but not a lot of action on it. I'm trying to, you know, my main shit, keep me away from that main event, keep me away from that co-main event. Just keep me away from it because there's questions there. From my main plays, my main bets, my main parlays, keep me the fuck away from the main event. Keep me the fuck away from the co-main event. You understand what I'm saying to you? Keep me the fuck away from the co-main event. If it's still lined up the same, we know what the main is. As long as the co-main stays the same, which it should with Shavkat and motherfucking Ian, and as long as the co-main stays the same with Cyril versus Alexander Volkov, you can keep me the fuck away from the main, the co-main, and the co-main. You understand what I'm saying to you? Shit. It's about being on the right, and you can keep me away from Bryce because that's significantly priced. You can keep me away from Kennedy because that's significantly priced. You understand what I'm saying to you? You can keep me away from where's the other one? Where's the other one, man? Where's the other one? Chase, because that's significantly priced. You know what I'm talking about? About being on the right side of Nate versus Choi. You know what I mean? On the right side of Michael versus Max. Cody versus Joshua. You know what I'm talking about? Randy versus Brian. Chris versus Eric. And then if you want to have action on Themba and Vicente and Masvar and Aljo, you know what I mean? And Anthony and Dominic, cool. You know what I'm talking about? Solid. I'm going to have action on them too. But for me, it's really about being on the right side of those individuals. It's about being on the right side of Chris versus Eric. That's a lovely money line, regardless on which side you want. You know what I'm talking about? Joshua versus Cody, that's a lovely money line. If you want Joshua like I'm on, that's a good money line. If you want Cody at the dog tag, that's a lovely money line. You understand what I'm saying to you, man? Come on, Brian versus Randy. If you like Randy, that dog tag's looking fucking lovely to you. And if you like Brian, for what it's worth, it is what it is, man. You might not be in love with the price tag, but you can get you can get around parlaying it the fuck up. You know what I mean? It's parlayable. It's bettable. You know what I'm talking about? Michael and Max, lovely. Lovely money line, regardless of which side you on. You know what I'm talking about? Nate and Choi, lovely money line, regardless of which side you on. It's about being on the right. Now, if you, like I said, Anthony and Dominic's creeping up there, you know. And I'm nervous about that fight if we keeping it funky. If we keeping it all the way honest, that fight makes me fucking nervous. That's one of the most sketchiest fights on the card to me. That makes me nervous, man. It makes me fucking nervous. I know a lot of people would like to be like, oh, you know, it's Dominic Reyes and it's Anthony Smith, it's Lionheart. I mean, come on. But like, if you really go and run that back and rewind that back, smack your fucking self. Because look at Dominic Reyes' resume. Look at Anthony Lionheart Smith's resume. Dominic Reyes has a handful to a half a dozen of individuals that he actually faced that are worth talking about, and he lost to most of them. You understand what I'm saying to you? He's got a handful, you know what I mean, of good wins. Anthony, win, lose, or draw, Anthony Lionheart Smith has been there with absolutely everybody. You know what I'm talking about? Dominic Reyes' run was what it was, you know what I mean, until it wasn't. And now he's got one win back over Dustin Jacoby, and we're going to act like Anthony Lionheart Smith might not come in there and attempt to just get this one down to the ground and aggressively search for the submission. He's hurting right now. You know what I'm talking about? His homie, right-hand man, road dog, always in the corner. You know what I'm talking about? Been there with him since day one, just about, passed away. You know what I mean? And who's to say Anthony Lionheart Smith's not coming out here and trying to, not to say it's gonna happen, but trying to get this one out the way for, you know, for the homie, man, and dedicate this one to the homie, and to do it inside the distance via submission would just be icing on the cake, in my personal opinion. You know what I mean? So I'd watch the fuck out for this fight. Now, everybody has a story. Everybody has something going on, going into it. It's why I don't get involved into these motherfucking stories, and I don't like watching all the, you know, sentimental shit, you know what I mean, when they're breaking down these individuals, you know, personal lives leading up to these fights. You understand what I'm saying to you, man? You know, because somebody's got to lose, and more times than not, it's the individual with the fucked up story. You know what I'm talking about? And that just makes it even worse, you know what I mean? At the end of the night, it makes it hard for you to cheer for the motherfucker that won the fight when you have to watch everything this individual went through, you know, leading up to this fight. That's why I don't like watching that shit for the most part, man. I only know this, you know, because I be all over these individuals' social medias, Instagrams, and everything leading up to these fights to see how they're preparing for the fights, looking at Dominic Reyes, you know what I mean, seeing what he got going on, seeing if Jokers is out here, you know, just heavily involved in their sponsorships and their OnlyFans and their thises and their that's, and they're just really, you know, doing a lot of pop-ups and show-outs and pictures and all this crazy stuff. And then if the other one's just heavy in the gym with respectable names, getting rounds in and sweat and blood, just going hard and just focused, it's, you know, it's worth consideration for me, you know what I mean? So that's why I tap in absolutely everywhere. I do my little homework as far as, you know, if I don't know what I need to know about an individual, then I'll go dive deep and I'll look through all the stats and I'll look through all the resumes and I'll run the numbers on all the resumes to see how legitimate those records really are and this, that, and the third, boop, bow, and bit. But I need to check in on that personal shit too. I need to see where you at in your personal space leading up to these fights. You know what I'm talking about? What's happening? What kind of posts you making? What you doing? Where your mind's at? You know what I'm talking about? And, you know, Lionheart been going through some shit, man. You know what I mean? So, you know, the homie was there. He's been there for him. Always been there for him. When he wrapped up Vitor Petrino or whatever, he was in there for him. It makes me nervous because I've said over and over and over and over again, Dominic Reyes, just because he won one fight over Dustin Jacoby, doesn't mean he's still not on a Chuck Liddell-esque way out. You know what I'm talking about? Where you get slumped and slumped and you get slumped and slumped and then you win a fight and then you lose via decision and you get slumped and then you're out of here, guy. You know what I'm talking about? Like, just because he got a victory over Dustin Jacoby did not make me jump back over here like, Dom's back, man. It's over. It's a wrap. The division's been put on notice. Everybody better watch the fuck out. No, man. No, absolutely not. Not in any way, shape, form, or fashion. You beat Dustin Jacoby, man. Salute. Moving forward, let's see what you're going to do. Because you beat a couple of good names prior to getting matched up with John. And then, you know, everybody after John that continued to get you out of there, and now you got motherfucking, you know, Dustin out of there, and now you're matched up with Lionheart, where it kind of feels like they're trying to, you know, give Dom another, help him get another foot back in the door, help him, you know, boost his confidence some more, and, you know, give him a little bit of a push with this matchup. But I wouldn't be so sure. You know what I'm talking about? Anthony Lionheart Smith, for what it's worth, is Anthony Lionheart Smith. And absolutely nothing about this matchup would surprise me. If Anthony gets knocked the fuck out, if Anthony gets rocked and put on fucking skates and TKO, you understand what I'm saying to you? If, you know, if he gets rocked multiple times and survives and loses via decision over 15 minutes. Or if Anthony Smith rocked Dominic Reyes and knocked him the fuck out. If Anthony Smith drug out a decision via taking Dominic Reyes down to the ground multiple times over the course of 15 minutes, or at least once or twice, and putting him in a few compromisable positions, you know, in the process of doing so and drug out a decision in his own right, or if he was able to find that submission and get Dom out of there inside the distance. How could anybody be surprised at any outcome of this fight on Saturday night, man? If you're surprised, man, if you're heavily invested into the Dom side and he's in absolutely all of your plays, or he's in your main play and your main bet, so he's pretty much in all the rest of your shit, readjust, man. Take that, duplicate your most confident picks and just, add a swap out option with Lionheart, or just don't fuck with that fight at all, man. If Dom don't get him out of there inside the first 5 minutes, I promise you, you'll be glad you did it, man. You know what I'm talking about? And I would not be surprised if Lionheart came out here and threw a couple teep kicks, threw a couple kicks to keep Dom back. And when Dom, threw a nice little 1-2 down the pipe, Lionheart just kind of dipped up underneath that thing and went for the wrestle fuck game, you know what I'm talking about? And then just aggressively searched for that submission to get him out of there inside the distance via submission, man. I'm telling you, that fucking fight makes me nervous, man. Just because I'm not a Dom guy, and Dom's win over Dustin didn't get me back on Dom's side. You understand what I'm saying to you? And Anthony Lionheart Smith just is what Anthony Lionheart Smith is. Anthony Lionheart Smith. You know what I'm talking about? He can prove to be problematic. You know what I mean? And I'm just not all the way sold that Dom's back. You know what I mean? Just because Dom didn't get cracked by Dustin. And Dustin didn't attempt to get this thing down to the ground and drag it out. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sold that Dom is back, so I can't be confident in that, man. While Dom is the pick, I just can't be confident in that, man. You know what I mean? And, Vicente versus Themba. The pick is Vicente. I'm not overly confident in the pick, so I don't have a lot of action on the pick. I do have prelim parlay action on it, and I do have a couple whole card and a, Hail Mary, haymaker kind of situation. A Hail Mary toss and a haymaker, a 7-legger, you know what I'm talking about? That has Vicente involved in it. I do have some action on Themba as well, you know what I mean? Rightfully so. But this is, come on, man. Come on, man. Who the fuck is Themba beating, man? This is Vicente Luque. Joaquin Buckley got him out of there, but we all pretty much expect Joaquin Buckley to get Colby Covington out of there too, man. You know what I mean? At least I do. You feel what I'm saying? Like, Joaquin Buckley's no fucking chump. You know what I'm saying? And it is what it is, man. You think Themba is getting Joaquin Buckley the fuck up out of there? Nah, I think Joaquin Buckley knocks Themba the fuck out. I think he puts him the fuck to sleep. You know what I'm talking about? So, I get it, you know what I mean? But Vicente Luque's looking sharp. I mean, he's already sharp, well-rounded. You know what I'm talking about? Solid, absolutely. Anywhere the fight can take place, he's fucking dangerous. You know what I'm talking about? The highest level of opposition Themba's ever had to share any kind of cage with. You know what I mean? And listen, there's no big age discrepancy, no big height reach discrepancy. You know what I mean? There's a level of opposition that these two individuals been competing against discrepancy. You know what I'm talking about? There's an experience discrepancy. Vicente holds those advantages, and for what it's worth, before Nick Diaz, got to going through whatever Nick Diaz is going through, with all due respect, you know what I'm talking about, that motherfucker was looking good, man. You can't deny that motherfucker wasn't looking good. He was looking tip-top, man. I had him all kinds of wrapped up in shit at plus 450 against Vicente Luque on some early birds, man, because he was sitting at plus 450. I wrapped him up in all types of shit. You understand what I'm saying to you? Because the way that boy was looking, and I know he didn't like the way the last fight went down with Robbie, he was coming back to put on a motherfucking show. And Vicente Luque knew that too. He knew Nick Diaz was looking sharp, man. And Vicente started going to work. Started sharpening up, rounding out, just going to fucking work. You know what I mean? And he looks good, man. He looks fucking good. I only say that, all of that to say this. Vicente was coming in there, preparing to come in there against what he believed to possibly be the best Nick Diaz we may have ever seen. You understand what I'm saying to you? And He was preparing to come in there and be able to get that man up out of there and spoil him yet again. So he was preparing to be at the best he could possibly be. Maybe the best we have ever seen. Performance of the night. You know what I mean? Like, Vicente wasn't taking that fight light. And the fact that, you know, Themba is the fight now, and Vicente's sitting at a dog price, Vicente's not taking this fight light. And I believe Vicente's going to come in and either go out on his shield, attempting to prove that there's levels to this shit, or he's going to prove that there's levels to this shit. You know what I'm talking about? Again, there is no age, there's no big, great age or height or reach discrepancies. You know what I'm talking about? The only discrepancies is the experience and the level of opposition that they've been competing against, man. So it is what it is, and I like who I like, man. You know what I mean? I like that dog. And Randy versus Brian, I know it's a lot of motherfuckers that like Randy, especially as a, you know, as an underdog. I get it, you know, Randy's solid. Randy's proven that he can be dangerous. I'm not taking anything away from Randy in any way, shape, form, or fashion, other than the fact that this is a bad time for him to be locked in the cage with Brian Battle. I think Brian Battle is problematic for Randy Brown. I think Brian Battle is going to find a way to get Randy Brown out of there inside the distance. And I would not be surprised if it was via submission after he clips him on the feet from a club and sub type of situation, man. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was, you know, via just catching, clipping, and disconnecting him from his consciousness either, man. Anybody sleeping on Brian, especially Randy, would be mistake. It would be a mistake, man. You know what I'm talking about? It would be a mistake. And Cody versus Joshua, I like Joshua. I know it's a lot of people that like Cody as a dog tag, and I know they both fought Charles Johnson, and Cody was able to scrape out the split decision, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was a unanimous, but I believe it was a split. And Joshua, you know, he got clipped. But it is what it is. One thing has nothing to do with the other, but it is all worth consideration. And we've seen it many times before. One individual fights one individual and beats him. That individual fights this individual, you know what I'm talking about, gets dusted. These two individuals fight each other. This one gets dusted. Like, one thing has nothing to do with the other, but it's all worth consideration, man. And I get it. But based off of their physical frames and, you know, their physicalities and the way they match up, with Cody being the one that's just a bit taller and Joshua a bit shorter, and Joshua's compact frame, you mix that together, man, it just makes it a bit more difficult for Cody to get to the hips. You know what I'm talking about? And I don't necessarily believe that just because he's not able to get in on the hips that he'll be able to push him up against the cage and scrape off some control time and do any damage over there. I don't think he'll win in those exchanges when those takedowns get stuffed. You know what I'm talking about? Joshua will be able to disengage. And I'm not going to say relatively easy, but I do believe it will be relatively easy. I think he's too strong. You know what I mean? He's physically more imposing. You know what I'm talking about? So mix that with the fact he's a little bit shorter, which makes it a bit more difficult for Cody to get in on the hips. When he does attempt to get on them hips, and that shit gets stuffed, Joshua's you know, the fact that he's physically more stronger, physically more imposing out of these two, it'll make it a bit more easier for him to disengage and get back to that good body of work on the feet where he's going to land the more significant shots. It's a fight. Cody can crack. I'm not saying that there's, you know, it's outside the realm of possibility for Cody to come in here and catch and clip Joshua Van. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Joshua Van is going to catch and clip Cody and possibly disconnect him from his consciousness. At the very least, he's going to win via unanimous decision. And I wouldn't be surprised if a couple times when Cody goes for a takedown, he gets reversed and Josh was able to lock up a couple of his own takedowns. You know what I'm talking about? So I like who I like, man. Kennedy's all day. You know what I mean? In my personal opinion. But just because I'm saying Kennedy's all day, and a lot of people probably feel like Kennedy's all day, tread fucking lightly. It's those all days. It's those motherfuckers that we just kind of look the other way and look over their opponent, that somewhere in the mix, those what ifs cash. You know what I'm talking about? So it's Kennedy all day, but it is what it is. The price tag's crazy now anyway. So if we ain't talking prelims, haymakers, or Hail Marys, who the fuck cares? I don't. You know what I mean? I told you about Chris and Vicente. I told you about Brian and motherfucking yeah, Chris and Eric, Vicente and Themba, Brian and Randy, Cody and Joshua. You know what I'm talking about? Michael and Max, it is what it is. You know what I'm talking about? That shit very much so is what it is. I just think right now that Max is going to be able to keep this fight upright and, you know, put a little bit of a beating on Mike. You know what I'm talking about? With all due respect. I know Michael would like to go out there and get this one down to the ground, find a way to, you know, find a submission and get Max out of there inside the distance via submission, possibly clip him on the feet. I don't think either one of those outcomes are going to happen. You understand what I'm saying to you? I think Max might clip Mike and get him out of there inside the distance, you know, via KO, TKO, man. Or at the very least, win a competitive, somewhat close, unanimous decision by putting damage on Mike and landing the more significant strikes. Mike's a little bit more worried about just the afterlife of fighting. You know what I'm talking about? While Max, however realistic it may or may not seem to you or me or anybody, he's like, he has thoughts on a title run. He's dialed in, you know what I'm talking about? He's locked all the way the fuck in. He's not looking past anybody, but he has a higher bar set for himself. You know, Michael's a bit more focused on the afterlife of fighting, you know, commentate, hence his little post he put up on what he's trying to get accomplished, you know, moving forward and finding a more permanent fit in the commentating column, I guess we could call it, is where he would like to be. Like, he's not so much focused on, you know, the fighting and the, you know, the winning and the moving forward as he is of what's going to happen after life. The fight, you know, the afterlife of fighting. You know what I'm talking about? They're not dialed in the same. They're not, you know, taking the fight game, approaching the fight game the same. Max is dialed in. Mike, not so much so. Not sleeping on Mike. Not sleeping on Mike. Mike's solid. Mike's well-rounded. But Mike not taking this shit as seriously as Max is could prove to be detrimental. Mike could fuck around and go to sleep. Mike could go night-night. Because Max is coming out here to put a stamp on this victory. You know. Whatever number's next to Mike's name, he wants that and more. So, you know, it is what it is. I like Max that fight, but anybody who's rocking with Mike at a dog tag, I ain't never mad at a dog play. You know? Chase versus Clay, it is what it is, man. It should be Chase all day, you know what I mean? And then next thing you know, Clay rips him to the body and comes over the top, and Chase just face plants to the fucking mat with his ass in the air. What? Minus 1250 going into the fight, slumped inside the first 60 seconds. Stop it. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, when them price tags get like that, you gotta worry about Clay Guida. Just one of those moments where you don't know where he's looking because the hair is just in his motherfucking face. You know what I'm talking about? And he bites down on that motherfucking mouthpiece and just rips to your body and comes over the top and found a way right through the motherfucking range, crushed the distance and just put you to sleep, Chase. Damn, youngin'. Whoo! All the way up until the bell rang, you was the man, youngin'. Woo! What the fuck happened to you? You know what I mean? Fuck that. It should be Chase all day, though. You know what I'm saying? Ew. Bryce. Come on, man. Bryce is at a minus like 600. As if Bryce is going to come out here and just box Kron up like an Air Jordan or a Cub Swanson, man. With all due respect to Bryce. You are not near one of those individuals, man. Cub can box, man. That's why I got Cub as my one dog against Billy. You know what I mean? On the next call, on Covington versus Buckley, I got Cub knocking Billy the fuck out. You know what I'm talking about? Or at least boxing the fuck up, possibly submitting him, or just doing a better body of work over the course of 15 minutes. But it's Cub all day, man. You know what I mean? And with all due respect to Bryce, you are not a Cub Swanson on the feet, in the boxing department, in the striking department. You do not possess those tools, the diversity, the angles, none of it. The movement, none of it, my guy. And the same can be said about Air Jordan. You do not possess the angles, the diversity, the tool set, none of it. None of it in the striking department. And that is what beat the Kron the fuck up. That is what beat Kron up and kept the fight upright. You like to do your best body of work on the ground like Kron does, rolling around. And trust me when I tell you, that's not where you want to be. Now, we've seen other things happen. Like, we didn't think, you know, Fluffy, right? It was Fluffy and Rodolfo Rivera. Like, we didn't think Anthony wanted to go to the ground with Rodolfo Rivera, and he ended up submitting Rodolfo Rivera. So, you know, hey, listen, maybe Bryce goes to the ground with Kron and submits Kron, but I don't really see that one happening. That's not a smart way to play. You know what I'm talking about? And to think that Bryce is just going to box Kron. Kron is durable. Kron got heart. You understand what I'm saying to you? And Kron can fucking crack. He's not scared to take one, to get one. You understand? My bad ashtray up here. He's not scared to take one, to get one, or none of that. He will, you know what I'm talking about, bite down on that mouthpiece, put his motherfucking chin in his chest, throw his motherfucking guard up, step in, you know what I mean? And try, you know, he'll eat a little something, something, to give a little something, something. And you better be able to eat a little something, something too, man, or you're going to be in fucking trouble. He going to have to box. He going to have to box and kickbox Kron the fuck up for 15 minutes. And I don't think in any way, shape, form, or fashion, Bryce on the feet for 15 minutes can justify a minus 600. No way. No way. Not in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And if that's what he tries to do, boy, oh boy, this might be the one that fumbles the bag. This might be the most significant favorite on the card to fumble the bag. Mark my fucking words, man. You know what I mean? Because if he doesn't like what's going on the feet, and then he tries to go ahead and shoot, you know what I mean? We already know how that's going to go. A desperate shot on Kron. Boy, oh boy. He wrapping something up. You know what I mean? And he fuck around and snapping it. You know what I mean? And if Kron gets the piece, if Kron cracks him on the feet and hurts him, he's not shy from just knocking you the fuck out and sleeping you. He's not going to necessarily just shoot on you and try to get you to the ground. If he got you hurt and he got you retreating and he got you backing up to the cage, he might just beat you the fuck up. You know what I'm talking about? Bryce better be careful, man. Bryce better be careful, man. This ain't a it should be Bryce all day type situation. Fuck that. You know what I mean? This ain't a Bryce should be a -5 anything like he opened up. He was -5. This boy's a -600 now. He's not going to look a -600 against Kron in a kickboxing match, man. He's not. Kron's tougher, in my personal opinion. Kron is tougher. He's more durable. You know what I'm talking about? And in that situation, he can take more, man. Bryce will break before Kron breaks, in my personal opinion, in a stand-up battle. And with Bryce not really being able to do much on the ground with Kron, I believe that's what we're going to have is a stand-up battle. And if that's the case, then how can anybody think he's going to justify -600, man? You know what I mean? He might get knocked the fuck out. Smooth. Boop, bow, bit. Boom. Boom. Ew. No Bible coming in that motherfucker on Saturday if that happens. Huh? Ain't nobody preaching in that motherfucker if that happens. No siree. They gonna be dragging him out of there, man. With all due respect, that's a shady fight, man. That's a shady fight, man. You know what I'm talking about? That is a shady fight, man. Them heavyweights, Cyril versus Alexander, you know, tread lightly. It's not 5 rounds. It's 3 rounds. The last one that Cyril won, that was 5 rounds. He won it. It was 5 rounds. This is 3 rounds. Things go a lot differently in 3 rounds. Who gonna get their game going a bit quicker you know, who's going to edge these rounds out, because it's only 3 of them. You know what I'm talking about? And it's highly competitive. It's closely contested, man. The pick is Alexander because, you know, I like this. I like to believe, I'd like to see it, and I like to believe he can go out there, you know, and do what needs to be done to secure a victory. 2 rounds to 1, possibly split a majority. Either way, be the one to get the nod and set these, you know, 2 individuals up for a possible rubber match down the road, maybe for title contention or something. You know what I'm talking about? But, you know what I mean? Alexander's still the pick, properly prepared for being on the wrong side of that shit as far as parlays are concerned. Don't want a whole lot of action on this fight. It is heavyweight, you know what I mean? But, yeah, tread lightly, man. If you got Cerrero locked up, it's heavyweight MMA. That's a mandatory swap out option, in my personal opinion, based off of the level of opposition. And that last one was 5. It was 25 minutes. This one's 15 minutes, man. To be determined. You know what I'm talking about? To fucking be determined, man. Aljo versus Movsvar. That's the one for me, man. That's the one. That motherfucker right there, boy. Is Ivalov gonna come out here and make this look like Jan versus Figueiredo? You know what I mean? Playing the role of Jan and Aljo playing the role of Figueiredo. You know what I'm talking about? Or is Aljo gonna come out here and steal that O away from him, man? Via split decision or unanimous decision. You know what I mean? These individuals both like to implement an all-around body of work. You know what I'm talking about? And while Ivalov on paper would seem to have a better takedown accuracy, we don't have the amount of tape to go off of in the UFC as far as statistics are concerned. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily know who's gonna have that advantage, man. Like, I don't know who's gonna have that wrestling and grappling, offensive and defensive advantage in this matchup, man. You know what I mean? I honestly do not know. I don't. Ivalov likes to, you know, shoot for upwards of 17, 18 motherfucking, so does Aljo. You know what I'm talking about? They both like to produce an all-around body of work. They like to mix it up very fucking well. And if you know what I mean? What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? I just don't know. Because if you're telling me this stays upright, if you're telling me Ivalov maybe doesn't want to implement his offensive wrestling and grappling, just kind of use his defensive wrestling and grappling to keep the fight upright due to the submission threat of Aljo, you know what I mean? Because there is very much so more of a submission threat, more of an aggressive guard, one individually who will more so aggressively search for the submission if he finds a way to put you in a compromisable position, or he finds himself in a dominant position to do so, and that's Aljo. We have to, that's a fucking fact. You know what I mean? Ivalov is solid, he's well-rounded, you know what I'm talking about? He's dangerous down there, but he's not as aggressive with his guard. He does not chase the submission as aggressively. You understand what I'm saying to you? When he gets you into compromisable positions, where he gets himself into a dominant position. You understand what I'm saying to you? Aljo very much so does do that. And this is 15 minutes. This is not 25 minutes. I can see Aljo coming out here and taking his first round from him like that. You know what I mean? Maybe not relatively easy, but I think he might find his way onto a back. Like Ivalov does one thing and Aljo's on his back, and he might be on his back for the rest of the fucking round. You understand what I'm saying? So even if Ivalov is standing up over there against the cage, fighting the hands, being strategic, and Aljo's just kind of slapping on him and trying to do what he do to get, like, He might very well just take the first round away from him like that. Fact. Period. There's no denying that. If Aljo comes out, because Evilov's not somebody, he's not a, he doesn't come out this motherfucker and aggressively search for anything. He's just very solid, very well-rounded, very sharp as far as his IQ. You know what I'm talking about? He's very smart. He doesn't really overextend, overcommit, you feel me? Chase after the finish. If it presents itself, he'll take it. Like, he's a very technical individual, man. Very, very solid and well-rounded, man. And I don't got a whole lot bad to say about him. Oh, we dropping shit. I don't got a whole lot bad to say about him. You know what I'm talking about? Other than the fact that Aljo can possibly creep away on the volume, the activity, and have those moments, man, where he just kind of, like I said, locks in. Possibly gets that backpack situation, and God forbid he's able to secure a takedown. You know what I'm talking about? Or he gets Evilov up against the cage. Whatever, man. You know what I mean? You mix all of that together with the activity, because I believe Aljo will be the more active of the two, the one utilizing the octagon a bit more, the one just doing a bit more, in my personal opinion. If Evilov is unable to really crack him and settle him down and get him to respect something, you understand what I'm saying? To just really touch him, I don't know that he can hold on to that, over the course of 15 minutes. If this was a 25-minute main event, if this was up there where Shavkat and Ian is for a 25-minute co-main event, it's not, man. They got it on the fucking prelims. They got Aljo and Evilov on the fucking prelims right now. You know what I'm talking about? With all due respect to Bryson Cron and Nate and Choi and Anthony and Dom, if that's the way they still got it rocking, with all due respect to those 6 individuals involved in those 3 matchups, Evilov and Aljo should be above all y'all motherfuckers. You know what I'm talking about? Straight up. That shit should go the main event, Pantoja versus Kai in the main event, Shavkat versus Ian in the co-main event. You can do Cyril versus Alexander in the co-main event, but then you do Evilov versus Aljo in the co-main event. You know what I'm talking about? And then you can do fucking Nate versus Choi. Put Bryce, Cron, Anthony, and Dom on the fucking prelims. You know what I'm talking about? But it is what it is, man. It's 15 minutes. And I just don't know if Evilov, outside of finding a finish, what I don't believe he'll be able to do, or just producing a better body of work over the course of 15 minutes, which I don't necessarily know that he'll be able to do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man, if he's going to be able to hold on to that. Oh, and it's the homie, so yeah, I'm being biased, and I'm not going against the grain. I said it. Maybe there's a night where Evilov comes out there and makes this fight look like Jan versus Figueiredo with, Evilov playing the role of Jan, and unfortunately, Aljo playing the role of Figueiredo. Just not really being able to get nothing off the way he wants to, and being on the wrong end of an individual, producing a better body of work, landing the more significant shots, man. Would I be surprised? No, I would not. But would I be surprised if it went the other way and Evilov was just not able to get off over the course of the first 10 minutes at all the way he wanted to, but then started to find his way in over the last 5, but it was just too late, too little, too late? I wouldn't be surprised at all, man. I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's Aljo, you know what I mean? I believe he's going to be more active. That's just me, though. I believe he's going to utilize the octagon. You know what I'm talking about? He's going to be moving around a bit more, using his movement, using his angles, and peppering. You know what I mean? And it's just going to be a bit more active, landing slightly more. And outside of Evilov catching and cracking him and really significantly touching him, you mix in the fact that I think he's going to be more active, with the fact that I believe he's going to be backpacking and finding situations where he's going to put Evilov into a compromisable position at least once. over the course of 15 minutes, then I think Aljo can steal that O from me, man. You know what I mean? But it is what it is, man. It is what it is, you know what I'm saying? And Shavkat versus Ian, you know. I like Shavkat, man. I like Shavkat to get it done and hopefully be the one to keep the 100% finishing rate intact while he gets it done. With that being said, if this thing goes the distance and we see 25 minutes of these two individuals inside of that octagon and it's anywhere near, which it most probably will be, but if it's anywhere near highly competitive and closely contested, one might like to think that more times than not, Ian might be the one to get the nod, unfortunately, based off of the facts that he's simply, in Dana White and the UFC eyes, a bit more promotable. You know what I'm talking about? They feel like there's a bit more they can do with him as far as meter moving and money making is concerned. You understand what I'm saying to you? So that one makes me nervous, man. 18-0, 15-0. 18-0 with 100% finishing rate intact. He needs to keep that 100% finishing rate intact. Shavkat Rakhmonov is somebody I look at like a, you know, Khabib Nurmagomedov, man. You need to win, and you need to do so in dominant fashion. Hence why he keeps finding a way to get these finishes inside the distance. He needs not let these fights go the distance. He needs not let these fights go to the cards. And if these fights go the distance and if these fights go to the cards, he needs to be the one who just put on a master class or produced an all-around better body of work absolutely everywhere. You know what I'm talking about, over the course of that 15 or 25 minutes, because more times than not, the individuals that he's matched up with, the UFC, the public, the fans, whatever, you know, I don't know if it's they resonate more with them, relate more to them, if they're more promotable, the UFC pushes them more. Like, I just don't know what it is, but it just seemed like, you know, for all Khabib did, man, every time he got in there, he needed to be the best. He needed to be the best, because if he wasn't, even if he won it, but if he didn't win it in spectacular fashion, they wanted to strip it from him. You know what I'm talking about? And give it to somebody else and just forget about him and push, you know what I mean? And I feel like Shavkat needs to keep winning and doing what he need to do and get the title and win a few and go ahead and bow the fuck out, because the moment he's on, you know, the moment something goes to the cards and it goes the distance and it was highly competitive and closely contested, he's going to be on the wrong side of a decision, in my personal opinion. I don't even know why, you know what I mean? But it's just how the UFC be looking at certain motherfuckers, man. They look at somebody like Ian and they feel like they can push him more. They can promote him more. There's more they can do with him as far as meter moving and money making is concerned. You know what I'm talking about? And unfortunately for Shavkat, that means he just has to, you know, he already has to show up sharp. Can't afford to slip or sleep, you know what I'm talking about? But more so than anybody else, in my personal opinion, an individual like him needs to be all the way on top of his game, man. So I hope he gets it done, and I hope he gets it done inside the distance, because if it's anywhere highly competitive and closely contested, I wouldn't be surprised if him, as well as me, siding with him to be the pick, or on the wrong side of a decision and the wrong side of this pick, and Ian, you know, goes on to be just boosted. You know what I mean? But it is what it is, man. It is what it is, man. These are some messy fights, man. Some of these fights are some messy fights. This main event is crazy. Crazy. You know what I mean? Old boy's been slept. He been finished inside the distance. He knows what it's like to lose via decision. So Pantoja's that guy. You know what I mean? In my personal opinion, when it comes to this matchup right here, and as far as levels of opposition that they've been competing against, shit's just different. So it is what it is, man. Tread lightly where you feel like you need to tread lightly at, man. You know what I mean? Never mind what I'm talking about. But it is what it is, man. Kennedy's the pick. Chris is the pick. Vicente's the pick. Brian's the pick. Joshua's the pick. Aljo's the pick. Max and Chase and Dominic are the picks. Bryce, I'm still rocking with Choi. That one's going to be fucking... That one's gonna get spicy. I'm probably prepared for being on the wrong side of that pick too, as far as parlays are concerned, for what action I do have on that fight. But I'm rocking with Troy, man. Wouldn't be surprised if it's Nate's night though. You know what I'm talking about? Volkov is the pick, Shavkat's the pick, and Pantos is the pick, man. It is what it is. That's that with that. Appreciate y'all for tapping in. Peace and blessings.